Right now, as you're watching this, 47 million American families believe they're about to inherit wealth that will change their lives forever. They're wrong, and by the time they realize it, it'll be too late. $124 trillion. According to Cerulli Associates' 2024 analysis, that's the exact amount set to transfer hands in America by 2048. The media calls it the greatest wealth transfer in history. They're lying. This isn't a transfer, it's a consolidation. It is a mathematical inevitability playing out in front of your eyes. And if you think you're on the receiving end, you need to understand something critical. You're not watching wealth move, you're watching it concentrate. There is a pattern to this, a four-stage pattern that has destroyed the middle class of every rare major civilization that has ever existed. Here's what nobody tells you. This pattern is so predictable, so mathematically precise, that once you see it, you can watch it unfold in real time. Stage 1, the foundation. A nation establishes a currency backed by something real, gold, silver, something with actual value. This creates trust. Stage 2, expansion and debasement. The government faces mounting costs, wars, welfare, imperial overreach. They quietly degrade the currency. They print more paper. They promise nothing has changed. Stage 3, loss of control. Inflation accelerates, the currency collapses. The middle class holding their wealth in that debased currency gets obliterated. Stage 4, the reset. Wealth has transferred from millions to a few thousand. The system restarts. Let me prove this to you. But this time, let's look at it backward, starting with the moment the modern machine was turned on. Case Study 1, the United States, 1971, August 15th, 19-1. President Nixon stands before America and suspends dollar convertibility into gold. The Nixon shock. For 27 years, since Bretton Woods in 1944, the dollar had been pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. It was the foundation of the global financial system. But by 1971, America was hemorrhaging gold. Foreign governments demanded redemption. The U.S. had only 10,000 metric tons left, less than half its peak reserves. On August 11th, 1971, Britain alone requested $3 billion in gold moved from Fort Knox. Nixon had no choice. He closed the gold window. The dollar became fiat currency overnight. Within 15 months, Bretton Woods collapsed entirely. What happened next? The 1970s delivered stagflation. Unemployment hit 6.1%. Inflation soared past 5.84% annually and kept climbing. Those holding dollars watched purchasing power evaporate. Those holding assets, real estate, gold, equities, they flourished. The wealth gap began widening systematically. Let's verify the pattern. Stage 1. The U.S. established the gold-backed dollar under Bretton Woods verified. Stage 2. Decades of deficit spending and war financing drained reserves verified. Stage 3. Gold window closes. Fiat currency unleashed. Middle-class purchasing power destroyed. Stage 4. The current system. Floating fiat currencies. Wealth inequality at all-time highs. Pattern repeating. You might think this is unique to modern banking. It isn't. Let's look at the most extreme example in history. Case Study 2, Weimar, Germany, 1921-1923. After World War I, Germany owed 132 billion gold marks in reparations. That's over 500 billion today. Germany had abandoned the gold standard during the war. They lost. Now they had to pay in gold-backed currency while possessing almost none. The Weimar government made a choice. Instead of raising taxes, they printed money. Watch how fast this accelerates. By mid-1922, the exchange rate hit 320 marks per dollar. 6 months later, 7,400 marks per dollar. In January 1923, France and Belgium occupied the Ruhr Valley. Germany's response? Print even more money to pay striking workers. By November 1923, $1 equaled 4.2 trillion marks. 4.2 trillion. A loaf of bread that cost 160 marks at the end of 1922 now cost 200 billion marks. Families who saved for generations watched their entire fortunes evaporate in months. Anyone holding cash was destroyed. Anyone holding land, gold, or foreign currency, they survived. The wealth of millions transferred to a tiny elite in less than 2 years. Apply the pattern. Stage 1. Germany operated under a gold-backed currency pre-war. Check. Stage 2. Reparation debts led to mass printing of unbacked paper. Check. Stage 3. 29,500% monthly inflation in October 1923. Middle class wiped out. Check. Stage 4. Introduction of the Rentenmark. Wealth consolidated. Complete. But surely this is just a 20th century problem. No. This machine is ancient. Case Study 3, Rome, 64 AD. The city is burning. Emperor Nero needs money desperately. The denarius, Rome's silver coin, had contained 95% pure silver under Augustus. Nero reduced it to 80% purity. That was stage 2 beginning. 130 years later, under Septimius Severus, that same coin contained just 46% silver. Then came Caracalla in 215 AD. He introduced the Antoninianus, supposedly worth 2 denarii, but containing only 1.5 times the silver. Monetary fraud on a civilizational scale. By 253 AD, the Antoninianus contained 20% silver. A decade later, 2%. 2% silver in what was once the most trusted currency on Earth. Prices exploded 1,000%. Small landholders lost everything. The wealthy who held land and gold consolidated power. The Roman middle class was annihilated. Check each stage. Stage 1. Rome established a trusted silver standard. Verified. Stage 2. Centuries of currency debasement to fund wars. Verified. Stage 3. Hyperinflation and total destruction of middle-class wealth held in currency. Verified. Stage 4. Currency reform. Empire weakened. Wealth consolidated to the elite. Complete. 3 civilizations, 2,000 years, same pattern, same outcome every single time. The present-day reality, which brings us back to today, to that $124 trillion wealth transfer everyone is talking about. Here's the part that destroys the narrative. As of 2024, the top 1% of Americans hold 30.8% of all wealth, $49.2 trillion. The bottom 50%, they hold 2.8%. Of that $124 trillion transfer, $62 trillion comes from the wealthiest 2% of households alone. And where is it going? Right back to the top. Millennials and Gen Z expect to inherit $46 trillion and $15 trillion, respectively. But Northwestern Mutual's 2024 study reveals that only 26% of Americans actually plan to leave an inheritance. 1/3 of millennials expect one. Only 22% of boomers and Gen X plan to leave anything. The expectation gap is massive. Millions are banking on money that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the median inheritance for the bottom 90% of Americans is close to 0. Let's verify the stages for America right now. Stage 1. Trusted currency? Yes. Bretton Woods. Verified. Stage 2. Expansion? Since 1971, pure fiat. National debt exceeds $36 trillion. Verified. Stage 3. Loss of control. Real wages stagnated. Inflation returned. Housing unaffordable. The top 1% controls wealth equivalent to the bottom 90% combined. Verified. Stage 4. The inevitable outcome. The reset. You're thinking it right now. This time is different. America is exceptional. That's what they said in Rome. That's what they said in Weimar, Germany. That's what every civilization says right before the pattern completes itself. But the pattern doesn't care about exceptionalism. It cares about mathematics. It cares about the immutable reality that when you debase a currency, you destroy the savers and reward the asset holders. No exceptions in 2,000 years. Here's your reality check. If you're holding your wealth in cash, in savings accounts, and fixed income instruments, you are on the wrong side of history. The pattern shows with absolute clarity that currency debasement always transfers wealth from those holding the currency to those holding real assets, land, equities, commodities, things that cannot be printed into existence. The 124 trillion wealth transfer isn't a windfall coming your way. It's a siphon. And unless you understand this machine, you're not inheriting wealth. You're funding someone else's inheritance. So what do? First, stop waiting for an inheritance that statistically isn't coming. Second, understand that your savings are being systematically devalued through monetary expansion as you watch this. Third, position yourself on the right side of the wealth transfer by holding assets that appreciate when currency debases. The machine was built centuries ago. It's operating exactly as designed. The great wealth transfer of 2024 isn't a windfall. It's the end game of a pattern that played out in Rome, Weimar, and Nixon-era America, and is reaching its crescendo today. Right now, subscribe. Because in the next video, I'm showing you exactly how this machine was built, who built it, and the 3 specific actions you can take right now to position yourself before the final stage completes. This isn't financial advice. This is pattern recognition.